Please tell me this is updating. God, it's not updating. Man, I'm running into so many technical issues, dude. Okay. Man, I'm running into so many technical issues. It's crazy. So today is Thursday, January 30th, 2025. This, of course, is the Zyner Market Update. I was responding to comments, actually, on social media, particularly on YouTube. Thank you so much for your comments. I definitely look at everything, but then I try to come back and respond to comments like by typing out a response. And, sometimes that can be a very tricky thing to do because I get very involved in writing comments and suddenly my comments go from one sentence to like a paragraph and even longer. And it could be a little bit time consuming, right? But I wanted to at least address one quick thing that I noticed from yesterday's broadcast, right? And that was the question of, do you know if or for how long Greg Beard, who is the current co-founder and chief executive officer of Stronghold Digital Mining, how long is Greg going to stay on with Bitfarms after the deal closes? So my understanding is that Greg's going to serve like really in an advisory capacity. And I don't know to what degree that's going to be formalized. It might just really be more of a informal advisory capacity, not something whereby Greg's like on formal retainer with Bitfarms to provide counsel. But again, that's something that'll probably be clarified in more detail. I know that during the joint press conference, right, where Greg and Ben were on a call together back in August of 2024, discussing the proposed acquisition of Stronghold Digital Mining by Bitfarms, that was the description of the role that Greg would play at the combined company. And I think Greg has tremendous knowledge in this space. And I really hope that, this isn't Greg's last act. I mean, I think that there's just so much that from my perspective, Greg has to contribute to this space, not maybe specifically Bitcoin, but certainly the energy space, that I'm hopeful that we'll continue to hear Greg's voice and wisdom and thoughts, in the months and years ahead. So I just wanted to address that super quickly. I think it would be very dumb not to buy into Bitfarms at this insanely oversold price. The people complaining are those who have no dry powder left. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Nobody wants to try to catch a falling knife until the knife turns into a rocket. And that was posted by Capri's 9X. Sorry, again, it's very fine print and kind of faded there. The contrast is a little bit different the way I'm seeing the comments. But that's a really good point. An excellent point. Listen, I'm no stranger to people being pissed off with a company, right? So with Stronghold Digital Mining, you have to realize, right, that company went public at the reverse split adjusted price of $190 a share and subsequently rose to about, I guess, like, let's call it like a roughly $300 a share. It was closer to $350 a share, right? Before falling all the way back to kind of like where it's at now. So, had I not had the ability to, well, first of all, I wasn't even involved, right, for many months after the company went public. But there was what I always would refer to as like the OGs, right, the people who got involved with Stronghold at the IPO. And I can still think of some of their names, really good, decent people. I like them very much. Even though I didn't really know them super well, but you know what I mean? Like you kind of build a little bit of a rapport with individuals when you're kind of posting back and forth. And some of these individuals were clearly really hurt by, and by hurt, I mean, yeah, financially, but I think also just emotionally and mentally, man. I mean, it's like a very jarring thing. You buy 1,000 shares of a company, let's say, it's like $19,000. And, suddenly it's like, your investment is decimated, right? And so there were some individuals who really suffered and struggled. And so, it was always a very difficult balancing act between giving, I think, a voice to that legitimate hurt and that legitimate concern and fear and apprehension as to the future of this company, right? I remember one fellow, he kind of like thought he was going to swing trade it. Had, like Stronghold had dropped from like 35 to like around like $10 a share or so. And this was before the reverse stock split. And he thought it was just going to kind of bounce back up, but it didn't, right? I mean, it just kind of kept dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping to the point where it was below $1 a share, right? And so, I first bought shares on, I believe it was June 10th, 2022. So, and it was like a little over $1 a share. I mean, it like most of the drop had already happened, but I came into an environment where like practically everybody who was saying anything about Stronghold Digital Mining, right? It was all just like really, really pessimistic. It was really dark. It was depressing. And you know what? To a degree, rightfully so, right? I mean, imagine going through an experience like that. That's not a fun thing. And what occurred to me was, management, right? Be it Greg, be it Matt, the former CFO, right? Just people at the company. I mean, look, we're humans, right? We're on social media, right? We look at things. We want to read about our own company, find out what's going on. And I thought, man, this could become like a very, very toxic sort of information loop, right? Where if everything, the people making decisions about the future of this company and who are working at the company, right, on the front lines and, in New York, right, if all they're reading is like this pessimism and negativity, man, that could start to affect, sort of like maybe their own perception of the business. It could maybe rob them of a little bit of the confidence that you sometimes need to kind of move forward. And so I said, even though I'm going to have to overcome a lot of my own like personal anxieties over being in front of a camera and just all the weirdness of being on social media. Hey, I live in Pennsylvania. This is my home state. I care passionately about environmental issues. I believe strongly in the mission and purpose of Stronghold Digital Mining, even to this day, which is right to reclaim this land, which is filled with all this mine waste. Let's put this mine waste into purpose-built facilities. Let's clean it up, right? And in the process, we'll generate electricity. We can sell that electricity to the grid, or we can use that electricity to power our own Bitcoin mining machines. You could probably just hear the passion and excitement and enthusiasm in my voice, right? I mean, it's still within me because it's very true. This is something that I didn't have to like act or like pretend. This was very natural for me. And so I thought, hey, if I can just express this, hopefully there's a chance other shareholders will start to see some of this stuff. Maybe management sees some of this stuff. Hey, maybe we can kind of like start turning things around to some degree, right? And the turnaround has to begin in your own conception of what's going on. And if we can start turning this around, hey, I really do believe in this business. And if more people start believing in it, including the people running the business, maybe there's a chance that we can really kind of get ourselves back on the right footing and not go into bankruptcy, right? Or not find ourselves in a situation where it's like a liquidation sale of some kind. You can't control everything. You can't control the price of Bitcoin. You can't control going into a crypto winter. You can't control Celsius blowing up or FTX blowing up. You can't control one of the worst markets really in a while happening. You can't control the fact that your business model, your way of approaching the topic of Bitcoin mining is fundamentally different from what investors generally are looking for. I mean, with perfect hindsight, right? Clearly what we know now is, hey, the real business plan, right, to have pursued, say, from 2020 to roughly, say, 2023, give or take a little bit, was to simply go really asset light, okay? As few assets as possible, especially, when it comes to energy assets. Don't want to have any of those on your books. Instead, you want to go out, get Bitcoin mining machines, try to find some inexpensive power purchase agreements, plug those machines in, and really just use all your capital to scale and scale and scale to have a bazillion Bitcoin mining machines. And the market arguably rewarded companies that did that extremely well. And hey, look, congratulations to the companies that did that, and congratulations to you if you happen to own shares in a company that was doing that. Stronghold took the approach of saying, hey, we want to own our own energy assets. We want to be in control of that one part of our, cost, sort of like our cost output, so to speak, right? We want to make sure that we can control the energy. And then we can thoughtfully think about adding Bitcoin mining machines. And, look, the intent of this broadcast isn't necessarily to sort of retrospectively go over what happened with Stronghold. Getting back to the topic here, and I'm going to kind of circle this loop here. I understand why there would be people in Bitfarms who are concerned, afraid, legitimately, kind of not sure what the heck's going on. and have that apprehension as to whether or not the future has anything good in it, right? The fact that Bitfarms is acquiring Stronghold Digital Mining and acquiring these assets, which I care so much about, and the people whom I had the privilege of meeting and getting to know, and who work at Scrubgrass and at Panther Creek, that all of this is going to be part of Bitfarms. And the fact that, we seem to see now, right, that Stronghold was kind of right, probably early, but right, in saying you want to own energy assets. You want to be able to develop energy infrastructure because, there's going to be a constriction in the market. And when that constriction happens, owning those assets is going to be incredibly valuable, and it's going to be strategically advantageous. So to the extent, right, that narrative plays out, it's not even a narrative, it's kind of like it's a mathematical reality. If you look at estimates of power consumption and the amount of power that's available, right? I mean, you have all these new, needs for energy, particularly in the HPC AI realm, right? In addition to Bitcoin mining. So if all of that's going to play out in a positive way, then I think arguably Bitfarms is legitimately in a great place to capitalize on that. So yeah, I get that it's, hey, yeah, it's dumb not to buy Bitfarms at these insanely oversold prices. I mean, yes, I get that too. I do. I mean, trust me, I get that because I lived that experience with Stronghold. As I saw the stock keep going down and down and down, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Let me double check reality here. Am I living in an alternative universe, or am I, is my math wrong? I mean, I was very, very deeply, as I would often say, I wanted to come as close as possible to what might be considered industrial espionage, right? I wanted to really, really understand what was going on a daily basis, hourly basis, what's really happening, and then make decisions based on that, right? And every time I would do that analysis, I'd be like, man, yeah, I think this company is just not, something just doesn't make sense about the valuation. So when it comes to Bitfarms, again, I'm sensitive to those who are really, really beat up by having bought high and now it's a lot lower. And yeah, maybe they don't have any money to buy additional shares. And so they're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? And, there's concern about dilution. I get that. I mean, that was a concern with Stronghold as well. It's really, look at the end of the day, if we're going to see, and I'm going to have to wrap up this broadcast. This is kind of gone. When you get me talking about Stronghold, it's like I can just go on and on and on. I'm very, 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 very deeply, to this day, very enthusiastic about that, the company and about the mission and purpose. But my point is this. If we believe that a Bitcoin rally of significance is upon us, if we believe that, and if we furthermore believe that energy is going to be a critical part of the future, right? If we believe both those things, hey, energy is going to be a really big part of the future. There's going to be tremendous demands on energy. There's going to be a Bitcoin rally of significance this year, right? If we believe both those things. And even if we believe the Bitcoin part more, maybe even than the energy part, I don't see how Bitfarms doesn't participate in that type of rally. Now, I understand Bitcoin was at $40,000, $50,000 a coin, and Bitfarms was at a higher stock price than it is now. What's going on, right? I get it. I remain genuinely, very, very genuinely optimistic that the price at which Bitfarms is trading today will not be representative of what it's trading at 6 months to about a year from now, or let's say by the end of the year. Now, the shorts, well, hey, maybe they think Bitfarms is going to go to zero. I heard that a lot when it came to Stronghold. What shorts seem to sometimes forget, though, is that, companies like Bitfarms and Stronghold who have access to the capital markets, who have these, ATMs that they can tap into. I mean, it's pretty tough to run out of money when you can just kind of create money out of thin air. But furthermore, Bitfarms is actually when you really look at their numbers, I mean, their liquidity is quite impressive. I mean, it's not like, hey, we got 5 million in the bank and, maybe 3 Bitcoin. Bitfarms has a lot of Bitcoin. And Bitfarms has a very, very sizable cash position as well. So the idea of Bitfarms going to zero, to me, seems a bit far-fetched. Hey, anything could happen, right? Anything could happen, but to me, it's a bit far-fetched. I do think, however, that there is going to come a point where all these shorts will have to buy back their shares, right? And so far this year, with the exception of a couple trading sessions ago where, Bitcoin kind of took a little bit of a beating and a lot of the miners kind of took a bit of a beating, aside from that, generally speaking, this so far, we're not really seeing Bitfarms like collapsing below $1, going to like 70 cents a share, 60 cents a share, 40 cents a share. We're not really seeing that, right? So I'm inclined to believe that we're kind of finding our footing and that the stock is, again, I hate this because I'm not a stock prognosticator, right? That's not really what I do. I like to look more at like operations and what's going on like on the ground. But I'm just saying, let's keep it real. The stock to me seems profoundly beat up. It does seem, cheap, if you want to, use that phraseology. And I'll tell you something. The reason, just because someone else asked this, hey, Ben, what's the deal now? You seem to talk about Bitfarms. Remember, Stronghold is in the process of being acquired by Bitfarms. By extension, I'm going to naturally be loyal to a degree to Bitfarms, even though, as I've said before, I'd love to expand some of the topical focus here, right? That we're not just obsessively talking about Bitfarms every single day, as I did for 350 videos or more with Stronghold. But let's keep it real, okay? Like, if Bitfarms is going to succeed, then Scrubgrass in Western Pennsylvania, the Sharon, PA site, right, in Western Pennsylvania, and Panther Creek here in Eastern Pennsylvania, these sites have to succeed, right? I don't know how Bitfarms succeeds if the Stronghold acquisition results in nothing happening, right? That doesn't logically make sense to me, right? These sites have to succeed. These sites have to be ramped up. And that's exciting to me. It's very exciting to me. Okay, I really went off here, but it's like, man, you get me talking about Stronghold and I don't know what it is. There's just something about this that really energizes me. So, and you've probably noticed sometimes, when I do broadcasts lately, that spark, that energy, it's sometimes not quite there because I'm not talking about Stronghold. It's crazy, dude. Maybe a psychiatrist can figure this shit out, but it's like weird. I'm just really passionate about the mission and purpose of Stronghold. Now that mission and purpose will be in part, going into Bitfarms. And so as a result of that, yes, Bitfarms is going to be a significant part of my focus, right? But by the same token, like I've said, hey, I think it would be healthy for us to look at some other companies as well, right? Look, there's a lot of other companies in the Bitcoin mining space. And, even from the perspective as somebody who wants Bitfarms to win and to be successful, I think it's useful to be able to look at other companies and see what they're doing and kind of compare and contrast, maybe borrow best practices. There's a lot that we can learn from looking at other Bitcoin mining companies, right? So that's kind of what I mean by expanding the topical focus, right? Not just that we're every single day like, well, what's Ben doing or what's he thinking or, what decisions are being made today or what's going on a very micro level at a facility in, Quebec or, in Sharon, PA, like what's going on with the construction. Those are all useful and interesting things maybe to me at some level, but certainly not, I don't think necessary for these broadcasts. Okay. With all of that said, listen, somebody said that they enjoy ending with a positive, when I end these broadcasts with like a bit of a positive, inspirational message. So let's do that again today. Let's see if I find one that I haven't read before. I'm going to have to systematize this. Again, I thank you for your patience. I'm trying to make these broadcasts a lot more interesting, first and foremost for myself, but then also for you. Okay. Limitations live only in our minds. But if we use our imaginations, our possibilities become limitless. I know some people must think this is so cheesy. But when you really think about it, right? Limitations live only in our minds, because if you look at something and you're like, man, I don't think I could do that. Well, that limitation is living in your head. It's a little bit different, of course, if you try to do something and you're like, oh man, I didn't quite succeed. So maybe I got to change my strategy, but I'm going to keep trying, right? Limitations live only in our minds, but if we use our imaginations, our possibilities become limitless. That, I think, is very, very true. But imagination has to be rooted in reality. So let's keep pulling for Bitfarms. Let's stay positive. We're going to try to continue to be great, and we'll see each other again tomorrow.